So this is a conversation about steps, the steps we take in life, and how over time they tell the story of our own personal journey. This isn't about the distance that we cover, but rather the experiences we have along the way, the experiences that help shape the people we become. For instance, it took me 23 steps to walk onto the stage today. But we all know that's just part of the story. It's really a snapshot of the experiences, judgment, and decision-making that it took for me to get to a moment where I'm standing right here in front of all of you. A few years ago, my mother sent me a package. And in that package, it contained a box of my childhood memorabilia, old keepsakes, photographs, press clippings. But tucked in the center of that box was a piece of paper that was issued by the rural Alabama hospital where I was born. And on that piece of paper, it had my tiny little footprints that were taken shortly after I entered the world. And I became fixated on those footprints, not as a marker of when I was born, but really as a symbol of all the steps and all the journeys that I've taken in life. And as I reflected on those footsteps, I started to think about our first steps in life. That's really our first lesson in failure and our first lessons in overcoming failure. You see, we fall, we cry, we crawl, we cry. Sometimes somebody comes along and they pick us up. Sooner or later, we learn to pull ourselves up. And then one day the magic happens, incredibly, instinctively, and we take those first little wobbly, uncertain steps. And the lesson that we learn there is that you're gonna fall. But instinctively, what happens is that you rise and you walk, and the success is in the walking. And as we get older, those steps become more complex. We step into new responsibilities and new relationships. We step into new adventures and new obligations. And sometimes we love those steps so much that it's almost like a dance. And sometimes those steps are so complicated, they're so hard, that we cross our fingers and we take what feels like a giant leap of faith. And it is those moments where our courage is being tested and we're forced to face our fears. So it doesn't matter if those steps are so amazing that we're dancing almost to a symphony, or if they're so hard and so complex that our courage is being tested. What is clear is that we are moving. And when we are moving, we are learning. And when we're learning, if we allow ourselves to, we are growing. And so as I thought about this moment today, I thought, what have I learned on that journey from those tiny footprints on that piece of paper to today? And I'd love to share with you 5 things I've learned along the way. Number 1, step with intention. Step like you know where you're going. Have a plan, have a strategy. That doesn't mean that the plan is not going to change, but be very deliberate about where you're going. Have a destination in mind and be purposeful about how you're going to get there. Number 2, embrace change. We know that the road is not a straight line. It is full of twists and turns and highs and lows and curves. Life will throw us a curveball, and we sometimes have to step outside that line in order to catch it. That is life teaching us agility. Embrace that agility as a lesson for change. Number 3, I've learned to trust myself. So the third lesson is to trust yourself. We live in a society where it's very common to be concerned about what other people think. But my advice is to not be persuaded by other people's expectations of you or other people's criticisms of you. Choose your own path. That may mean when everybody's going to the left, there is something that is telling you naturally for you, you need to go in another direction. Believe that you know what is best for you and be confident to choose your own path. Number 4, don't fear failure. I've heard before that You're guaranteed to not get the job you won't apply for, or you're guaranteed to not get the opportunity that you don't raise your hand for or you don't throw your hat in the ring for. And I think oftentimes we don't try for new opportunities because we've already predicted the results. And we've already predicted that the results are not going to be favorable. Let's change that thought. What we have learned from those earliest lessons is that it is okay to fall. But failure happens when you fall and you don't get up. Failure does not happen when you get up and you try again, and you ultimately, naturally will have success. So let us focus not on the failure. Let us focus on really those moments of rising. And then the final lesson is to think big. Think that incredible things can and will happen for you and to you. So often I see people standing on the sideline, cheering others on, and that's great, and that's selfless. But learn to be your own cheerleader. Learn to expect great things for yourself. You've put a strategy in place. Expect the outcomes of that strategy to be something spectacular. So here we are. We know that life is a journey. We know that there's full of peaks and valleys and highs and lows, but we know that if we put a strategy in place, if we're thoughtful about it, if we trust ourselves, if we don't fear failure, if we embrace the change, that we know that we can have the success that we intend. And so I'm going to leave you with just one thought. It doesn't matter if it's 23 steps out onto the stage tonight or if it's the steps of a lifetime. It all starts with just one step, even if it's wobbly. Thank you.